Low down, baby. Oh my goodness. At least you do provide some form of entertainment. I love you. This is Callie, my Maine Coon. She is 10 years old. And she loves webinars. Anytime the camera goes on, she jumps in front of it. So we'll see how long she stays. Oh, there she goes. Oh, and just in time. Woo! Just in time for this to begin. Okay. Get set up here. Wow, that was sweet. Don't come back up here again. We're a little busy. All right, it is time to get started. So, welcome to Intentional Marriages Weekly Webinar. We are live. You can tell us where you're watching this from and post some questions in the chat room, and I will answer them at the end of this session. So we're excited that you're joining us. As you can see, Russ is not with me, and I will do my best to answer your questions. So today we're going to talk about the 3 easy tips to help transform communication in your marriage. Now, I know that sounds really basic, but these are some profound lessons we learned through counseling that have really helped us and really transformed things. So as we all do, from time to time, we disagree with our spouse, right? It's either we're looking for clarification or sometimes it is a white knuckle disagreement. So Russ and I had one of these white knuckle disagreements, and it was in the first year that we had gotten married. I remember a buddy of his called him that he hadn't heard from in a long, long time. And he was so excited. He was like, I cannot believe this guy found my number. I mean, this is before social media. This is 2004. Or actually 2005, excuse me. And he was super excited about connecting with him. And this was a Friday. We had a date night. And we both knew that we were going to be going out that night. And so listening to how excited Russ was about connecting with his friend, he was only in town for that evening. I made the suggestion, because I thought, reading between the lines, that Russ would rather, try to meet up with his buddy. And, we could go out anytime, right? So I made the suggestion. I said, well, why don't you go out and meet up with your friend? And Russ's response shocked me so much. He got so angry that I was like, wait, how is this backfiring on me? I thought I was, suggesting something nice. And in fact, Russ interpreted his sharing that I interpreted it as hinting. And he was just sharing some news that he was excited about catching up with his buddy over the phone. So because of Russ's reaction, and it took me by surprise, and he was so mad about it, that I retreated. And usually what I do in arguments is I just disappear. Like, yeah, I don't talk about him. I just move on. But now I'm married. Like, how do you resolve arguments? Like, this one felt big for me. I mean, we had little arguments here and there, but this one felt really big because of the level of how mad he was. Really shocked me. So I shut down like a good turtle. I shut down for a day, and then a second day, and then a third day. No kidding. I really did shut down for 3 days. And Russ is used to resolving disagreements within 30 seconds. So even one day was too much for him. 3 days, he's like, oh my gosh, what kind of mentality is this to shut down? I mean, how do you resolve disagreements? And I was like, you don't. You just ignore them and they go away magically. So unfortunately, it took me years of therapy to learn what was going on. And the 3 things I wanted to talk to you about today, the 3 tips that will hopefully help you transform your communication, is emotional flooding and soften startups and using I statements versus you. So emotional flooding, it's that fight or flee feeling that you get. Some people have a tendency to fight, like Russ. He's like a tiger. I have a tendency to freeze or shut down. I'm like the turtle. And then there's some people that flee. So in therapy, we learned this term called flooding. And it's when all your stress hormones go crazy. It's your norepinephrine, your adrenaline, your cortisol. I mean, they just shoot up all at once. And that's why your prefrontal cortex thoughts and what you say move back to the amygdala, and you start acting like a lizard. Now, I know some of you think your spouse is acting like a snake, but I'm not going to go there. So you start saying and doing the things based on your amygdala. And what we learn in therapy is if you set the clock for 20 minutes, all these stress hormones that is causing your amygdala to fire up and say and do the things that you end up regretting, it takes 20 minutes for those stress hormones to get reabsorbed back into your body. Now, I'm thinking, I have never heard anything like this. Like, is this for real? Like, oh, okay, 20 minutes. I know the saying, count to 10, calm down and count to 10. Well, I thought, okay, I'm going to watch the clock and see if this really works the next time I get upset. So the next time I got flooded, I just watched the clock and I thought, I'm going to be just as mad and I'm going to say all the things I'm thinking right now in 20 minutes. I'm not going to feel that much different. Well, in 20 minutes, physically and biologically, I could tell that this shift from the amygdala back up to my prefrontal cortex, I had calmed down. I could tell that I wasn't near as mad, and I was able to think clearly and come up with logical thinking and compromises, which is, it's a tool that you need when you're fighting, right? You want to be able to think clearly and come up with a compromise. So the biggest thing that Russ and I learned about flooding, because he's a tiger, I think it's just easier to name these animals so you can hopefully see how you show up as a tiger or a turtle. And I think the baby possums are the ones that flee. Our therapist has us all named. So Russ as a tiger, he will, say things he doesn't mean. He's very verbal, very loud, very vocal. And so for him, the 20 minutes is very hard to just stop in the moment. It's like asking a football player on the line to stop in the middle of a play and have a discussion. I mean, it's almost impossible. So the biggest thing for tigers is that 1 second pause. If you can catch yourself in that 1 second pause to step back and just stop and then have your 20 minutes, that's huge for you tigers. For us turtles, unfortunately, sometimes we need to shut down for more than 20 minutes. Sometimes it would take me 24 hours. Russ would tell you, with all the years of counseling and all the work that we've done together, that now I can come back within 20 minutes, and he'll even say that I come back or talk in the moment, that I don't necessarily have to shut down, go away, lick my wounds, process the hurt. But here's the key difference. If you're a turtle and you go away and you hope it goes away, the disagreement goes away like I do, then the best thing for you to do and what your responsibility is in the argument is to promise your spouse that you'll come back within 24 hours. Because if tigers can't have the argument, they're going to be left anxious and upset that they can't finish the discussion. And you owe it to them, and it's your responsibility to get back into that conversation. So now when I do shut down, Russ knows I promise to come back. And the more we've practiced this, the sooner and quicker I do come back to the conversation. And through lots of practice now, I can actually stay in an argument and not have to shut down. So these are tips for you to be self-aware of when you're flooded. Again, these stress hormones, the norepinephrine, the adrenaline, the cortisol, they take this smart, creative, loving brain, shifts you back to the amygdala. Your stress hormones are fired up, and you need 20 minutes to calm down. Okay, so I want you to try that and tell me how that works. I'd be really curious. And if you have any questions about this, post it in the chat room and I'll answer them at the end of this webinar. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and again, these are 3 weekly webinars that we've already discussed earlier this month. So if you want to hear more about the emotional flooding with Russ, you can go back and rewatch the replays of emotional flooding from week 1. So the second topic is soften startup. Now, if there was something that I needed in my marriage that I wish somebody had told me up front, it was the soften startup tool. Oh my goodness. So when Russ is working, he's in sales, so he'll go off to a client. He's mostly at a client's site, but now and then he'll be working out of the house. So when he's at the house, he is so hyper-focused, and he is, he doesn't see or hear anything around him. So if I walk up on him and say, oh my gosh, you would not believe we got this bill for $500. For Russ to shift gears into that conversation, it just brings out the tiger. And I mean, it's a mean tiger. And he just flips. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, again, how is this on me? And I'm like, this, I didn't create this bill. I didn't create the problem of this bill. And what I've learned is a softened startup means coming to your spouse and saying, hey, I've got an issue I need to talk to you about. It's a bill. It's something we can talk about later. But do you have time now, or do you want to wait till later tonight that we can talk about it? And it is like a magic switch. When I share a softened startup with Russ, where I'm asking politely and calmly, like, hey, I have something to ask of you, but should we talk about it now or later? It allows him to shift out of his hyper focus and know that I'm asking for his help. And now he's not going to, his first reaction won't be to attack. That's just him switching out of being hyper focused. And it has done wonders for our marriage, because he'll say, hey, I've got a conference call coming up. I can't. Let's talk about it afterwards. Or no, just table this till tonight. We'll deal with it. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And that has been fantastic. And it works with me too. Even though I'm a turtle and I can easily shut down, if he comes to me and says, hey, I have something difficult to share with you, I mean, we all kind of get that pitter patter, like, oh, it still feels like your parents saying, hey, I need to talk to you. It still sends fear through me when he says, hey, I have something hard to tell you, but it prepares me. It means I am not going to be defensive. I'm going to listen as best I can without saying anything, and listen clearly and listen to him thoroughly, and then try to respond in a calm manner. So the softened startup is kind of like, instead of just shooting a gun and expecting somebody to remain calm and go, hi, yeah, tell me about your issue. It's unrealistic. So that has been very, very beneficial. So softened startups are huge for us. And the third, and again, if you have any questions about softened startups, just post them in the chat right now, and we'll answer them afterwards. And the third tip is the I versus you statements. So this seems so obvious, but it's so easy not to do this. And I have a reason on why we don't use I statements versus you. So a good example is when we're, I have some points I wanted to go over here. If you're talking to your spouse and you wanted to, and they don't seem like they're paying attention to you, it's easy to say, you aren't listening to me. I mean, they're not going to feel like they want to listen to you after that kind of statement, right? But instead, it's better to say, I would like it if you would listen to me. So using the I statement requires you to express a need. So another example is, so you can say, for the last several evenings, I've been cleaning up the kitchen by myself. And that is expressing a need. It's stating the facts. The wrong way to say that is, you never help out. And it's funny how we'll use those you statements, because those you statements never generate the action that we really want. And we want their help. We want them to be involved. We want them to listen, right? So start the conversation gently. You can complain, but don't blame. Don't attack their character. Do not use never, always, you should, you could. Those are bad, bad words. Those are really bad words to say in a marriage, because the minute somebody hears never and always, they're defense goes right up. Also, another way is to talk clearly about what you need instead of walking into the dining room and saying, this place is a mess. You could say, I really need your help in cleaning up the dining room table because we're going to be having the dinner party tomorrow night. That's a very kind way. Another thing is to be polite and include please and thank you. But the biggest reason I think we don't start off by saying, hey, I'm tired, could you help me fold the laundry? Instead of saying, gosh, you never help me with the laundry. I'm always having to put it away. And I think it requires vulnerability. It requires us to say, I'm feeling something and I need something. Do you see the difference in how like if I tell Russ I need help with something, he's like, how can I help you? But if I say, man, you never help out. Okay, well, I'm going to make sure I never do because that's not true. But that would be his reaction, right? All our spouse can be is defensive. So keep that in mind when you're frustrated. And remember, when you're angry, or the HALT acronym, excuse me, when you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you're probably going to use you statements. So if you catch yourself hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, listen to how you're coming across. And an exercise that I had in our blog this morning that I sent out, I send a blog out every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And one of the questions was, how do I come across? Like, what makes it difficult for you to open up to me? Because you may not hear how you come across to your spouse. So it's really important to get that feedback, but you must be emotionally safe when they start to tell you. Don't jump on them if you ask the question. So I hope these tips help you. I would love to hear if they are working for you. Use hashtag intentional marriages. I will look for you on Facebook or on Instagram. And we would love to have you share this replay with your friends. Take a screenshot and tell us how the emotional flooding, if you notice how it happens, and if the 20 minutes made a difference. And if not, why? Remember to use a softened startup. It's the best way to approach your spouse, and it gives them the opportunity to answer something difficult in their timing. And 3, use I statements instead of you. So I really hope these helped. The next month, and then actually the next 3 months, we're going to be going over the Enneagram. So next month, we're going to go over Enneagram 1 through 3. So if you know any 1, 2s, or 3s, be sure to join us on that. And then the next month, we'll go over 4, 5, and 6. And the next month, 7, 8, 9. So we look forward to you in joining us in August to review the Enneagram and how we have found when you learn your Enneagram number, how compatible it shows you how compatible you are with your spouse. It is fascinating. And for us, it has been spot on. And we have loved enjoying getting to know each other better. And we've known each other like almost 18 years now. And we're learning new things about each other, as well as what our default weaknesses and motivations are. It helps us to understand that and have more compassion for each other. So we think it's going to be a fun conversation. We'd love for you to be a part of it. And thanks for joining us tonight. Take care.